If you're looking for a new opportunity, you ultimately have to convince someone that you're worth hiring. That seems simple, right? Present yourself in a way that the decision maker knows that you are worth the time and the investment. Well, that person you need to convince is the hiring manager. What if we could go inside the head of the hiring manager and we could hear what they're thinking? That'd be a pretty big advantage, don't you think? That's what we're going to do today. We're going to share the secrets that hiring managers won't tell you with our guest, Shelly Dredska from Arrow. Welcome to the interview presented by New Horizons. I'm your host, Pat Miller, the Idea Coach. Now, this show is a one-on-one interview and a Q&A with an expert that's here solely to help you get a new job or up-level your career. If you're serious about getting a new gig, don't forget the thousands of training courses New Horizons can offer you to up-level your skills. From an intro to computers you can take right on your mobile device, to Windows training, to immersive technology courses to prep you in the growing fields of cloud computing and more, New Horizons is making computer training simple and fun so you can get a job better than you can even imagine. Learn more right now at careerdevelopmentsolutions.com. That's careerdevelopmentsolutions.com. Also, a big thanks to our sponsor, Forward Careers. Forward Careers is helping you look for and launch a new career. If you're curious about that, but you don't know right where to start, check out Forward Careers, the preferred source for career exploration, education, and skill training. Forward Careers is a team of workforce professionals that specialize in providing high-quality, effective, and accessible career services in demand-driven and high-growth professions. To find out more, visit their website, forwardcareers.org. That's forwardcareers.org. Funding is provided by the Department of Labor Workforce Innovation, Opportunity Act, H-1B Tech Hire Grant, Department of Corrections Windows to Work, and Children and Families Independent Living. Our guest today, I'm so excited to talk with her, Shelly Dredska from Arrow. Shelly, it is great to see you. How are you today? Thanks for coming on the show.
Very good. Thank you so much, Pat, for having me. I'm excited to jump in and help people out with the knowledge that's in my head and other hiring managers as well.
Well, think about that. The opportunity to go inside a hiring manager's head and hear the secrets that they won't tell you. I have so many questions that I think might be helpful, but I want to start here. In general, what is the mindset of a hiring manager when they're going through the applications and considering one person over another?
It's really about finding that right talent, the qualified people that are going to be a great fit and match for the organization, their culture, their mission, where they're going. I'm going to tell you, those hiring managers and recruiters right now, though, they're under a lot of pressure. This is a very stressful place to be in when they are tasked with finding that right person and that right talent. They don't want to be desperate. They don't want to appear desperate. They really need to take the time to ensure they're finding that quality hire so that that person can get onboarded, be retained, and the hiring manager can move on to the next opening that they have to fill and not worry about having to refill someone if they fall off. So that's really the space they're in. It's kind of stressful, kind of pressure, but at the end of the day, they want to get the right person in the organization.
That's an interesting push-pull that you share that I don't think we think about enough. While it's tough to find great people right now, the jobs still have to be filled, and they can't make mistakes. If they hire someone that's bad, they really set the organization back. So I appreciate you sharing the stakes that they're facing and how they're thinking about it coming into it. Let's talk about the candidate for a second. So to be considered, we have to get the attention of the hiring manager, which can be tough. So how can I make myself stand out from all the other applicants inside the database?
Yeah, and obviously it starts with that resume, right? And make it easy for that hiring manager and recruiter. So have that resume ready. It has to be a great resume that stands out, has some highlighted areas, maybe some highlighted words that us as hiring managers are kind of peeking through, and it's going to stand out. I'm going to see those qualifications. I'm going to see the things that match the requirements of what I'm looking for. I don't want to read paragraphs and paragraphs of text to find out that you're a good match for this. I'm a huge fan of the master resume, where you create, maybe that's a 3 or 4 page resume if you've been doing this for a long time, but then you customize for each role that you apply for. So it becomes your resume underscore Harley underscore Coles, whatever
Mm.
that may be. And then that is a very custom resume that the hiring manager is going to see that you really are applying for their job. You're not applying for every HR manager in the world. You are applying for their HR manager role. So making that custom standout resume, making sure there's no errors in it, make sure it's proofread. That gets under the skin of some recruiters more than others. And then I don't want to dive too deep into what else makes a great resume because you just recently did your interview with Mary Beckfield's resume tips and tricks in 2022 and beyond. So I think if someone really needs to start fresh and have a great resume, probably go back to that. And then beyond that resume, it's really responding timely to the request for interviews. That will make you stand out. And if you're no longer interested in, you got an offer, something else has changed, you've decided to stay where you are, really sending that quick email or a text to the recruiting manager or the hiring manager and let them know you're out. You've self-selected out. That will save time. And I will tell you the hiring manager will remember that.
I want to ask about, we're trying to get inside the head of hiring managers. I want to ask about how a hiring manager literally reads a resume. How do they see the piece of paper and go through it? Because everyone has their habits, but in general, they check here, they check here, they check here. And if you continue to almost pass those tests, they'll keep reading. Do you see what I'm going for? Like,
Mhm.
how do they scan through a resume? Because you talked about it a little bit, but I want to get as granular as we can.
Sure. There was statistics a couple of years ago that a recruiter looks at a resume for like 9 seconds. So think about that. So put
Yeah.
your resume in front of a friend and for 9 seconds, do the countdown and say, all right, what did you see? And make sure they're seeing something that draws their attention. Now I'm going to tell you in this market, hopefully the recruiters and hiring managers are spending, at least 12 seconds on that resume to see if that's a match. So it's matching those qualifications to the role. So back to that point of that custom resume, they're looking for those skills. Maybe it's an education. I mean, if an education is required, they're going down to that section and making sure you check that box for that education or maybe that certification if it's a technical role. So again, it comes down to those keywords. The next thing they're going to look at is that job history. It used to be, I would say again, a few years back, if you were considered a job hopper, which meant it's changed over the years. It used to be, back in the day, if you didn't stay somewhere for 5 to 10 years, you could have been considered a job hopper. Now you maybe see, every 2 to 3 years is kind of more of a norm.
Hmm.
So they're looking for that. Now, if you had 10 jobs just in 2021, that may be something that is going to scan you out pretty quickly. So they're taking a look at that. They're looking at the companies that you've worked for, the size of the companies, the industry. If that's important to them, that it's something, that it has to be a match, or if they're open to, hey, we're interested in maybe getting some diversity in here and industry background. And then they're making their notes along the way of maybe some questions that they have that they'll add to the interview process. So that's kind of the way they'd work through that resume.
I'm curious about applying for something that you're not 100% qualified for. I read a stat online that men are more open to apply on something that they might not be 100% qualified for, whereas women will not, or at least they won't as often apply on something that they don't feel like they check all the boxes for. So when you're looking through a resume, let's say a 10 out of 10 check boxes is a instant interview, right? What if you're only checking 7 out of 10? Do you still have a chance? Or is it okay to apply on something you're not 100% experienced in? How do you think about that? And is that something we should do or not do?
Yeah. So hopefully the organization is doing a good job when they're creating that either that job description or that job posting, that they're not looking for that 10 out of 10. That I will tell you as an internal hiring manager and recruiter, when I did that in the industry, we would always go back to the hiring manager because they said, I need these 10 things. And it was our job to go back and go, well, what if we couldn't get those 10 things? I don't
Yeah.
have my little clone machine isn't working today. So let's pick what are the top, I'll tell you, it was usually what are the top 6 or 7 things. So they really know they may put that wish list out there of what those 10 top things are. But if you're hitting 60 to 70% of it. And again, you're coming across very clear with your communication. You've got that strong work history, and you can sell yourself at how you're going to learn or be able to fill that gap between, those other things that are missing. I think you should be applying nowadays for those roles.
And that's good. That kind of opens up our thoughts a little bit, because maybe there's a company we've always wanted to work for, but we've never been a part of that sector. Or there's a job that we know how to do, but there are portions of it we've never done before. So it's okay to put ourselves out there, and we still might have a chance.
Absolutely.
Okay. That helps. That really helps, especially for people that are getting computer training with New Horizons,
Mhm.
and they're thinking about going to a sector they haven't been in before. So that's
Mhm.
encouraging. All right. So if we get through the consideration stage of going through the resume, we get onto the interviewing portion. So, what are hiring managers expecting out of candidates in the interview stage?
Okay. This first one is really simple and people laugh, but if you talk to other recruiters, this is what they're banging their head against the wall with right now. Answer the phone and show up. It's very frustrating right now. People apply for jobs. We schedule a phone screen with you, or we schedule an interview, and then poof, you're gone.
Hmm.
So, hey, you're just gonna be ahead of the crowd just by answering your phone and showing up to the interview. Beyond that, okay, that's a simple, right? 50% is showing up, right? Be prepared. Do your homework. Connect with past and present employees at the organization. Go on LinkedIn, check out who you have for first connections there. Ask them, what's it like to work there? What's it like to work in this department? What are great things to know about it? Where are they going? So kind of get that inside scoop so you're prepared for either that phone screen or that interview. Check out Glassdoor reviews. Now, take that with a grain of salt. Sometimes there's some not so happy people who have left the organization that like to go on there and say some nasty things. So kind of take a look at it holistically, but check out Glassdoor reviews on the organization. Review the website and the social. I mean, that's pretty easy. Go on LinkedIn, go on the Facebook, know what they actually do, know their mission, and know their values. Because a lot of the times the interviewer is going to ask you in those questions in the interview, what do you know about us? What do you know about our products and services? And you can shoot yourself in the foot pretty quickly when you're like, I don't know,
Hmm.
or you give the wrong answer. So those are things. So be prepared. Once you're prepared, you're going to be able to create those good questions. So when the recruiter and the hiring manager says, what questions do you have for me? We are expecting you to have questions. It's really nice when the candidate says, oh, you did such a great job and answered everything. I don't have any questions. Okay, we're not that good. You must have questions. You must have questions for us. So have good questions about the job, the company, the opportunities. Why is this position open? Where is this company going? What can you give me to set me up for success? All those type of what opportunities are you going to have for me? So please have questions. That's huge. Be genuine. Don't be fake, rehearsed, canned. Anyone who sat in the interviewer seat knows what that feels like.
Hmm.
So that's not good. So be genuine and be honest. Be honest where you are in your job search as well. If you're just at the beginning of it, that gives us a little more time in the recruitment chair. If you're towards the end of it, let us know. Because if we fall in love with you and we start moving you down the path, and all of a sudden we call you and you're like, oh, I accepted an offer. That's a missed opportunity for us. So we're going to want to know if things start speeding up on the other end of it. Let us know, because maybe we can fast forward what we're doing as well and get an offer in front of you sooner. So homework, good questions, be genuine, be honest where you're in the process, and keep that communication open.
Is it true that if we do our research and we ask good questions and we answer the phone when you call, even though we might be less qualified, we're still trying to win human emotion here? That if we're a good person and a good partner in the process, we might have a better chance of getting the job, even if we're not as qualified, because we're a good participant in the process.
Yeah, that's all telling me about your communication and your eagerness for the job.
Hmm.
So I would say that might get you a couple extra stars in the rating process.
Okay. We're talking with Shelley Dretzka here. We're talking about getting inside the head of hiring managers, because we want to crack the code to help you get a great position. If you have a question, drop it in the chat. We'll work it into the conversation. And I've got a for real question, like just between you and me. No one else is listening. Okay. It's just you and me talking here.
Mhm.
How come hiring managers are terrible at communicating where we are in the process? Why do we have to answer the phone whenever they call and be prepared? But for some reason, it's okay for the entire hiring industry to treat every applicant like they don't matter. It's really frustrating.
Yeah. Shame on them. Shame on those hiring managers because then they're not representing their company well.
Mhm.
Um, I can't speak to those, but I will tell you when I talk to hiring managers, that's what I'm coaching them on and recommending. We need to be responsive. We also need to be honest and transparent upfront with our candidates. We need to be able to give a quick no. If it is somebody that does not match whatsoever, use the technology and send the nice no thank you so that they can move on as well. Clear them out of your pipeline, but let them move on as well. So I'm hoping that is changing, but you're right, Pat. I hear that too from candidates, and they're like, what the heck? I'm not hearing back. Where am I in the process? I feel like they're ghosting me. Recruiters are out there
Right.
complaining about the candidates ghosting them, but then they turn around and they can't do that communication. I think part of it comes back to maybe they came from a market where they just had a full lake full of great candidates
Mhm.
and they chose not to treat people kindly. The other, again, they're under that pressure and that stress. That's not the only position they're recruiting for right now. I have one client right now. Their recruiter has 70 open positions.
Oh my goodness.
70.
No.
Yes. So how hard is that? And some of them are, maybe some are multiple, right? I need 5 for this one, but it's not a lot of that. It's not like it's 50 people for one position. They have
Right.
almost, I'd say, 50 unique titles they're recruiting for. They're a little busy.
Yeah.
So I have that in the end later, but the patience is nice. I'll give you another thing that may give you some insight into their organization and how they communicate and how they treat people.
Mhm.
So keep that
Mhm.
in mind too.
Okay. So thank you for getting into communication because I do want to talk about that. We all want to do our best to get a job that's bigger than we think we can get. And that's being a good participant in the process. So again, we're inside the head of the hiring manager.
Mhm.
We get done with the interview. A couple days later, a card shows up, a thank you note shows up, an email shows up. Does that matter? Do they care? Should we do that? What do you recommend after the interview?
I don't think it's gonna hurt. Me personally, an email is minimal. And it's a thank you for my time. It's a couple things of what they enjoyed learning about the company and a real quick 1 or 2 sentence of why they think they're a good fit for it. That's going to stick in my head. I'm going to probably print that out and I'm going to put it into the file.
Hmm.
That above and beyond, Pat, and I love it because I'm a handwritten card type of person, handwrite birthday cards and thank yous and all that great stuff. It's above and beyond. It's gonna make you stand out. And I know you're gonna ask me later, like when I come down to a decision thing, that handwritten nice note I got in the mail 2 days later, and to each person you interviewed with. That's a big thing too. Don't do a mass email if you had a panel interview or you interviewed with a bunch of people. Customize that.
Okay.
I look forward to working for the organization to the HR person. I look forward to working with you to appear, on your team to the manager. Customize that to each of them. Same thing with a card. I like just a separate little card to each one. And it doesn't have to be, again, paragraphical, my word, couple sentences about what you enjoyed, looking forward to the next steps. For me personally, not every hiring manager is that a gold star thing, but
Mhm.
what does that hurt? That 5 minutes and a little stamp can go a long way.
Yeah. And hiring managers know other hiring managers. Maybe you're not right for that job, but you might be right for somebody else's job. It doesn't hurt to be a good guy. That's why I tell my kids all the time. It doesn't hurt to be a good guy. Just be a good guy.
Exactly.
Your reputation precedes you. Um, but we've all heard the stories of people that didn't hear from the company for 6 weeks and then they get an offer out of the blue,
Yeah.
or they think that they're the right person for the job and then they're ghosted. So let's talk more um, practically about follow up.
Mhm.
We do an interview, we think it's got opportunity waiting for us. Help us strike that balance between staying top of mind or annoying the hiring manager. At what level and
Mhm.
what rhythm should we be staying in touch with them?
Right. There's that fine balance between ghosting and stalking, right? We got to find somewhere in between there. So, first of all, it's that easy to send that not interested email and text when you want to remove yourself from the situation. Again, that'll go a long way. Southeastern Wisconsin is very small. You start getting into industries like banking. it gets even smaller. So yeah,
Hmm.
the word gets out there. You're correct. Know the preferred mode of communication. So that may be something that you're asking in the interview. If I don't hear from you after you ask, when do you think I'll hear back? If they say a week, if they say you'll hear back from Thursday, don't send them that email at 8 o'clock that morning. Let's at least let's be kind and go through the end of the day, maybe the next morning.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if they say, hey, drop us an email, text, whatever the case is, follow that mode of communication. If they don't have a preference, I kind of like to mix it up a little bit because I think emails get lost. Remember, they could have 70 other opening positions plus the rest of their job that they're trying to do. So between an email, maybe it's even a phone call and you're just leaving a message for them. They may not pick up, but leaving that quick message that you're following up with them, or if you happen to have a text. So kind of varying that up every couple of days. Unless they've said, okay, sometimes that'll spark them to go out and maybe quick send you that no thank you as well.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it may be getting you off the hook. So I'd say always that day or so after that they say they were going to respond to you. And again, you're going to always be professional regardless of their level of professionalism. You kind of talked about that before.
Ooh,
It's kind
yeah.
of be the bigger person,
Right.
and don't burn that bridge.
So let's talk about back in the hiring manager's head. They're trying to decide between one or two candidates.
Mhm.
How are they breaking that tie? I'm just curious, as they're making the decision, it's not always the most qualified, right?
No, there's so many factors that go, right? We're talking human nature and people, the good, the bad, and ugly of that. So there's a couple different ways. Some organizations may be very formal. They may have a scoring matrix that they're using where they're actually scoring you on all the different levels that
Mhm.
are required for the job. And it may come down to math once they put all those answers in there. Others, they could be getting feedback from other of the interviewees or interviewers, I should say, the interviewers. So maybe they're talking to other HR people, other hiring managers. Maybe they brought peers in. So they could be getting feedback from all of them. Hence why we want to stay in communication and send that thank you to all of them.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's professional references. Maybe they get to that point and they're talking to people you put down on your references. And if they're giving a good word for you, and maybe took some of the red flags off the table. Sometimes it was the person referred from an internal employee. If I have an external and an internal, I like the employee who referred you is a good high quality worker. My assumption is good people refer good people.
Mhm.
That could give you the leg up. Or even if they didn't refer you, remember when we did that homework earlier on? Maybe that person's stopping by HR and just saying, hey, I heard Pat stopped by and interviewed for the job. He said it went great. Thanks for taking the time to do that. I really think he'd be a great fit here. That's going to go a long way. At the end of the day, it's my opinion. Other companies could be different. It shouldn't be based on the salary or the benefits required or requested. But let's be honest, sometimes that's what it comes down to. Some are looking for the
Mhm.
cheaper hire. So that's out of your control. Maybe that's not a place you want to go work then.
Well, I would be a good fit here. I'd be an excellent employee, Shelley. Just saying.
That's good.
Uh,
I'm glad you've determined that.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Uh, I want to ask a question that people wrestle with when it comes down to finally accepting a job. So you get the call from the hiring manager. We'd love to have you be on the team. Now it's time to negotiate.
Yeah.
At that point, I don't want to call it leverage, but how much security do we have? Like, people don't feel as confident as maybe they could to try and get that extra week vacation or extra couple $1,000s in the negotiation process. So I'm curious from a hiring manager's head,
Mhm.
when we get to that stage, is it a yes provided the deal isn't outrageous, or is it still a maybe depending on the deal? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, depends on the cultures of the organization, but I always recommend that the organization is transparent from the start.
Mhm.
This is the range that we're in. And then the counter to that is where they need to be to make the deal happen. I always like to come out with the best foot forward, the best offer to start. I don't want to be haggling. That's uncomfortable. We're not buying a used car. We're talking about a career. We're talking about you potentially leaving something decent to go to something great. So I want to make that a good experience for the candidate.
Hmm.
So they should be able to ask for what their ask is. You know what your ask is. Um, and as long as the company was transparent up front and the candidate was honest up front, that gap should be pretty small. And I always say too, look at the entire picture. Maybe it's not $1,000. Maybe it's that extra week of vacation. Maybe it's a little flexibility.
Hmm.
Maybe that first year you take a week unpaid time off. Like be creative on both sides of it of what a good company and a good total rewards looks like for you. So I always think there's a little bit of room, but I think it goes a long way if the company or the hiring manager says right from the start, this is our best offer. We are so excited to have you. You asked for 50,000. We're coming out with 52,000 plus all the benefits plus all this great stuff. When can you start? That's a way different conversation than you asked for 50. We're going to lowball you for 55. Now let's play a game for the next couple of days, and I'm going to take a risk that you actually get a good offer.
Yeah.
So again, there's just best practices all around.
One more piece on negotiation, and I know it matters from company to company, but I am curious about where hiring managers' heads are right now on work from home as a negotiated item. Is that something that they are flexible on, or their companies are making decisions on this is or is not a work from home position?
Yeah, you're right. Some of the companies are saying butts in the seat. I mean, they are old school. They think
Hmm.
that's what they need. And some people do want that. I've heard people say, I want to go back to the office. I'm done sitting in my home office. But yes, I'm going to say there's more hybrid. That's the
Hmm.
new thing that's coming out, right? There's that flexibility of some office time and some remote time. And that's what's on the table. And that's a negotiable part.
Right.
I think I can come into the office, what does 2 days a week sound like where I have 3 at home or whatever the case is? I'm going to see a little more negotiating probably in the flexibility of where the work is done, probably more than salary and benefits coming forward.
Yeah, I believe that for
Mhm.
sure. Besides my bunny slippers, they're going to miss me if I go back to the office full
Mhm.
time. That's not a thing. This has been a great conversation. Is there anything we haven't covered that you want to share with someone that's looking to up-level their career or get a new career that we haven't covered as far as what's inside a hiring manager's head?
How about some pet peeves,
Ooh,
things that
yeah,
might
bring it on. Yeah, yeah,
might
yeah,
get
yeah.
might get you dropped right out of the pipeline. We talked before about what if I'm only 60 to 70% of the job? Okay, but what if you're 0%? Because sometimes we see that. Okay, maybe not zero, maybe five. Like that's wasting the time. Like that's great that you think you can be the CEO and and you're a bank teller.
Absolutely.
That's great. I'm glad you have those ambitions, but like not yet. So those type of things kind of waste the time. Make sure you apply truly for the ones. I mean, I've seen people that they apply for every job in the company because they really want to get their foot in the door in the company. That's gonna be a turnoff.
Mhm.
Um, Typos in resumes. You're gonna have those English major hiring managers that us HR people have to be like, okay, if it wasn't attention to detail or what if it wasn't a true requirement, can we look over this? Can we get through the interview process and still see if they're a good fit? Slow or no response to those interview requests. Multiple changes when you're trying to schedule an interview can be very frustrating. We're trying to fill our calendars. I get life happens. I kind of have a one strike rule. I get stuff happens. All of a sudden, I can't do this. I forgot about a doctor's appointment. Something came up. I will reschedule you once. You start kind of playing that game of, oh, wait, no, that doesn't work. Oh, wait, no, that doesn't work. Kind of sounds like you're not making this job search a priority. So that
Mhm.
could get you shoved to the side pretty quick. The other is changes to your original request, your salaries, your benefits, and your schedule during the offer and negotiation process. Because I've seen that happen too. This is a job that requires you to work on Saturdays, and all of a sudden we're all good, and we give you the offer, and you're like, no, I can't work on Saturdays. Okay, well, thank you for wasting my time all the way down here. Now I've got to go back and start all over again. So that's why you have to just be honest from the start. That's not to in the offer negotiation phase is not time to be switching what those main core ideas were to you. And at the end of the day, be patient, be honest, and be professional.
That's a great place to leave it. Great conversation today. Shelley Dredska from Arrow, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Of course, thank you, Pat.
Oh, I'm telling you, that was a great conversation. We just made you money. That's how it works. Now you know more about what's inside the head of the recruiters and the hiring managers. Now, if you want to improve your chances to land a great job, make sure to check out our careerdevelopmentsolutions.com. That's careerdevelopmentsolutions.com. Our training staff is standing by, and they are here to match you with the training you need to be qualified for one of those great jobs that Shelly is now helping us learn how to land. That website is careerdevelopmentsolutions.com. Big thanks as well to our sponsor, Forward Careers. I'm Pat Miller, your host. Thanks for coming to the interview presented by New Horizons. We'll see you next time.